don't understand folk who say they love God, but they don't want to come to God's house. I don't understand folk who say they believe, but they don't want to belong. Believing and belonging go together. Don't worry about it. Everybody needs to come to church. Believing and belonging go together. Thank God we're all here. If you believe, you ought to belong. Faith needs the encouragement of other people of faith. That's why we ought to come. Thank you. That's why we ought to show up. So that faith might hook up with faith and we might all be better because of it. Mary has already heard from God. And yet she makes haste to get to the house of God. There folks say, I don't need church. I'm just spiritual. I told you before, you ain't that deep. No matter how smart you are, you're not that deep. No matter how long you live, you need to hook up with a body of faith. Yes, you do. When I was in high school, teacher used to assign to us a thick novel to read. Told us that we needed to read. I remember when I was in 8th grade, had us to read Gone with the Wind. I didn't know then why I didn't want to read that. Now I know now why I didn't want to read it, but that's another story. About 1,000 pages of oppression and tyranny. But if you didn't get through the book, if you read part of the book, you had something called Cliff Notes. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. You read the Cliff Notes because it was the night before the exam. You didn't have time to cram 1,000 pages into one night, and so thank God for Cliff Notes. Well, church is kind of like Cliff Notes. Even if you live to be 99 or 116, woman's funeral on yesterday, you're only here for a few minutes, and so you can't take all that God has for you. God is a great God, and you can't take all of that and stuff it into one night. And so you come to church so that faith might hook up with other faith. You come to church so that you might be strengthened by the fellowship with the brother and the sister next to you. You come to church so that you might benefit from the spiritual genius of Isaiah and Jeremiah and Micah and Malachi and Elizabeth and Mary and the Apostle Paul. You come to church so that you might grow in faith. Mary has already heard from God individually, and yet she comes and makes her way to Elizabeth's house. When we come together, great things happen. One of the things that happens when we come together is we experience, listen, the celebration of your pregnancy. I've got news for you. We came here this morning to celebrate your pregnancy. Female and male, man and woman. Don't look at me funny, brother. We came to celebrate your pregnancy. What I'm trying to tell you is that God has placed something special in each one of us. Doesn't matter what your enemy has to say. Doesn't matter what the adversary says. God has made you special, and God placed something special inside of you, filled you with his spirit, impregnated with you with his promise. No matter how young we are or how old we are, God is always trying to birth something new and powerful within us. If you think God did something special this year, you ain't seen nothing yet. Wait till next year. God wants to give birth to something new and something amazing that you have not even imagined.